going on, everybody? So today we're gonna meet SDM Productions, um, guy out of California. We'll find out where exactly here in a minute. But we're gonna be talking about 3D printing a little bit. He does Star Trek stuff. I think he said he does a Star Wars thing in the past, but has a YouTube channel, and we'll let him plug all his stuff here in a minute. But today's episode is going to be, we're going to go through some 3D printing stuff. So we might go a little long, and I'm sorry about that, but it's about me learning stuff today. What's going on, Rick?
Hey Josh, how you doing this morning?
So you're down in California. Where at?
Just about maybe 45 minutes out of the Bay Area, San Francisco.
Okay, cool.
Well,
So what do you do for a living, and how does it help you with the hobby? Or if it helps
um,
you with the hobby?
I'm actually a security account manager, so I run roughly like a 13 to 14 man crew, three shifts, 24 hours a day. Uh, as far as reference to modeling, help wise, I would say the hobby actually helps me with my work. It's kind of a distressor for me. It's a way I kind of bring myself down after dealing with work. It's my cool down time and time to just de-stress.
No, that's cool. I do the same thing. I like if I don't sit at this bench at least once a week, I'm not the same guy. So I understand that.
Yeah,
Totally understand.
you need a way to help kind of process especially on a really stressful day. It's to process everything. It's because for like when I'm working on a model, I'm concentrating on what I'm doing, but I'm also kind of processing my day in my head and just letting it all filter out. So by the time I'm done, I feel a little better.
No, I mean, yeah, especially when everything that happened with my son and wife. Yeah, I had to have, and that's how I got back into this. Is I had to find something to just totally kill my what I was
Okay,
thinking most of the
gotcha.
time. And
Yeah.
this hobby does that
Oh yeah.
in
And
spades, right?
this is, I would, I mean, I'm not a therapist or licensed therapist, but I would say this is probably one of the best hobbies that I've ever found to uh, be almost like a meditative
Yeah,
uh, path for just self healing or self like cool down.
yeah, and it keeps you doing something, so you're not just constantly thinking about stuff.
Right. Yeah. No. Definitely. It's a great hobby. I mean, the hobby itself is great, and the people that you meet through this hobby is even better to me. I mean, I've met a lot of people since I've been on YouTube that and made a lot of friendships that have just really, you know, just made it uh,
Uh
better
oh.
than what it was.
So your channel name is SDM Productions. Is there a particular reason for the channel name, or you just come up with something out of the blue?
Well, originally it's just an abbreviation. It's originally was Space Dock Modeling. It was the original channel name, and that kind of my wife and I kind of came up with that one. She's the one that actually kind of got me started doing YouTube channels or a YouTube channel in the first place. It was her suggestion that I do it, and we were just sitting there one day thinking about names, and I think we were watching something on TV, and I think it was a Star Trek movie, and they had a space dock in their scene, and I said, "What about space dock modeling?" And she goes, "That sounds good." And so I went with that, and then later on, I just wanted to change it up a little bit, make it a little shorter, so I just went to SDM Productions.
No, that's cool. I didn't realize that's the name of it. I
Yep, that
thought
was the original.
since you light stuff up, maybe it had something to do with that. But
Yeah, no, I just wanted to short. I liked the channel name. It just seemed a little long, and I thought I'm just gonna shorten this thing out a little bit.
no, it's really cool. So so we brought up the ships. So what do you like to build? Are you just like a Star Trek, Star Wars?
My two favorites are Star Trek and Star Wars, both.
Okay.
I mean, I do build other kits. I do cars. I do some armor once in a while, but my my go-to is always Star Trek or Star Wars. I love them both equally for building. As far as to watch, I prefer Star Trek, but I love the ships that they make from Star Wars. So I got a lot of those kits I'd like to build. And then second on the list would be cars, armor. I've never done figures. That's one thing I haven't done yet. But most of the time, I always just kind of lean right towards a sci-fi sci-fi model. Love sci-fi.
I mean, sci-fi is totally different, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit more later with the 3D printing. But um, it like there's so much sci-fi stuff with you know and you can either do a figure, a tank, a plane, a jet, you know, a big battleship.
Yep.
There, I mean, your possibilities are endless.
Oh yeah. I've been kind of my ultimate goal is to build a 1/350 scale ship one of these days. I've never actually gotten that to that size yet, and I wouldn't mind one day down the road trying like the 1/350 like Bismarck or ships of that size, the ones that take ultimately I think like they're like 3 feet long and they take like ultimately forever to build. I wouldn't mind trying that one of these years, and unfortunately in my present environment there's no room for something that size.
Yeah, you almost need a place to like store that.
Oh yeah, yeah,
It's
especially because
crazy.
I mean those kind of ships go in glass cases, so I would need kind of a dedicated display room to do that. Which my hope when I move is to have a place where I have that dedicated room that I can actually do that with. Hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, and like this is like way down the road, but I want to actually scratch build like a Star Wars thing. Not
Ooh,
a Star Trek's way too clean for scratch building. I think you can do it, but Star
yeah.
Wars has got all the cool stuff.
Well, yeah, well, the thing about Star Wars too, the reason why scratch building that is much easier is because technically, the Star Wars ships were just scratch built ships
Yeah,
in the movie, so
yeah.
it's not hard to do it. In fact, you can take any object and it can be agreeably for a Star Wars ship. Doesn't matter what it is.
Heck, you can even take some of the like the armor kits. Like if you watch Tested, they'll talk
Mhm.
about some of the stuff they used to use for, and then you're like, that's not right.
Oh yeah,
That's not right.
armor was really widely used in that, and it was
Yeah,
also really widely used in the Battlestar Galactica, the original TV show with Lauren Green.
yeah.
Armor kits were used a lot in the Galactica build itself. In fact, if you look at the Galactica build, you see a lot of like the gear wheels. I think there's some automotive parts attached to that somewhere down the line too that they use
Oh,
for
maybe.
wheels.
Yeah, because the gas lines and stuff, and they
I
used to
think
put
there's
on
even a
all that stuff.
transmission housing that I think they used as agreeably on the ship at some point.
Yeah, scratch building is something I'm definitely going to try at one point, but it's just getting the inner structure figured out.
Yeah.
I still haven't quite figured all that stuff out yet.
Once you, I mean, I've never actually completely scratch built anything, but once you get that base going, you just let your imagination go. And you know, to me, scratch building would be nothing on paper, nothing as a diagram. It's just whatever my imagination kind of like just sees. And it's okay. Well, that looks good there, and I can see that happening. Which, like you, I wouldn't mind trying that myself one of these days. I think it'd be
Well,
really
I
awesome.
mean, you start with like smaller stuff,
Mhm.
and then you go to like like actual like studio filming size.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, some of that stuff they do for filming is like can be 8 feet long.
Oh yeah. Oh god, yeah. They've seen. Well, look at the Galaxy class Enterprise from Star Trek. Look how big that thing is. That thing's a monster.
Yeah,
I mean, I've
yeah.
seen the studio scale ship of that, and wow, it was just enormous.
Well, even the one for the Star Trek Next Generation, I think it's the D.
Yeah, Enterprise D Galaxy class.
The reason they have it to where they could split apart is so they could move it easier. It
That makes
wasn't for the
sense.
show. It was so they could move it easier. They did it that way.
I, I can see that because that thing is a beast. I mean, moving that thing could be, you could break that thing pretty easy.
Yeah, you know, and yeah, it's crazy once you learn some of the stuff off some of the guys from ILM and
Mhm.
Tested, and you start listening to some of them, and you're like, oh, that was actually the
Yeah,
show used that feature, not
that's why I like
the
watching.
other way around.
That's why I like watching Adam Savage a lot because he was at ILM. He worked for him and Jamie Heineman. They worked for ILM. If I remember correctly, uh, he was actually an employee of Jamie Heineman at ILM, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, it's crazy how all that stuff works, and
It is.
well, even watching MythBusters, them two
Mm,
crazy kids building all
yep.
that stuff on MythBusters. That show is great to watch if you like building stuff.
Oh yeah. I used to love.
Just to see the mind turn, right?
I watched every show of MythBusters when it was on. I loved it. It was a great show. That was so much fun watching those two. I don't know what's more fun, watching them build stuff or watching them try to collaborate and not argue with each other in the process.
Or how they were going to hurt Buster that week.
Oh God, yes, I remember Buster. Poor Buster.
So
He still survived, believe it or not.
I hey, I dummies are can be spendable.
Oh yeah.
I don't, especially in present day.
Oh yeah. Very true.
Um. All right. So what are you working on now?
Um, the present build I'm working on is the reimagined Battlestar Galactica. This is the box art for that. Um, it's a by Mobius. It's a good kit. It's got a few downfalls, but overall it's a really nice. It's small, and excuse the mixed up mess of wires here, but this is one half of it, and I've got one of the flight pods complete, which also light up. And this thing will light up pretty much as I can light it up. So I'm just working on getting this. I did have to kind of scratch build a new engine cap because I destroyed one of the engine caps by accident.
Whoops.
Yeah, I was doing a heat gun trying to dry some paint on it, and I melted it by accident. So I had to put it on the model, and I had to rebuild the entire top section of it
Oh wow.
with some styrene plastic, and then I had to sand it down and just sculpt it until I got an almost match to the other engine, which came up pretty good actually. It looks almost spot on. So it was there buying their model kit for $100, and I was like, I'm not going to do that. So um, that I'm also doing. I just did a resin print last night on my resin printer of for those alien fans out there, the derelict ship. This came off my resin, and it turned out really good.
So are you gonna send that to Michelle like you did the other figure?
I will make her one if she wants. This one's mine, but I will if she wants one. I'll make her one and send it to her. So I know she's like me. She's a big aliens fan. I love my aliens.
That's cool. So let's talk about lighting for a minute.
Okay.
And how are you lighting stuff up? Are you just getting the aftermarket kits, or are you actually building everything in sequence?
Um, I tend to build everything in sequence. I don't. When it comes to aftermarket kits, I buy the board. Sometimes I buy the boards for the like the flashing and navigational effects. But most of the time, I just run my own. I buy my bulbs and my light strips, and I do all my wiring, resistoring, all myself. I don't buy any pre-wired stuff.
Okay, so is there a reason for that, or you just like to make sure it's done correctly?
A couple of reasons. I like doing it myself. I like the hands-on part of the electrical. I do enjoy, even though sometimes it can be kind of taxing. I do like doing that, and plus, I mean, to be honest, some of these lighting kits they have, they're very expensive, and to me, they just don't give the effect that I'm looking for. And I mean, a good example, the new lighting kit for the TOS 1350 Enterprise. It's a beautiful kit, but the price is just it's more than the model, and it's like, why spend that kind of money when I can do this all myself? I know you get the board too, but I don't know. I think there's something to just doing it yourself.
So if you were going to explain how you solder, how would you explain it?
Um, Not really sure how to explain that one. I mean, it took me a while to kind of learn how to solder correctly to get a good solder joint. It definitely is a slight learning curve if you've never soldered before. I just watched a lot of videos and watched people solder. I do it traditionally. I take the soldering iron and the with using flux, which flux is what helps the solder actually like flow over your parts, um, and just take the solder and just or the solder and just put it to the part with your gun and let it flow. I mean, it's one of those things where my first solder joints looked really bad and didn't hold
Okay.
sometimes.
Yeah.
I've gotten pretty good at it.
I I know when like I lit on my channel. There's a deep. You might have to go deep diving, but I tried to light up the Deep Space Nine space station.
Ooh, that's
I
that's a
melted
tough one.
more. I melted more plastic before I gave up.
Oh
Like
boy.
I didn't even light it at the end. I just gave up.
Oh, you try soldering with the wires actually inside the model?
No, yeah, I like
Yeah.
yeah, I just like whatever I was doing, it didn't work, and I still haven't lit a fit. Still haven't lit anything up, and I've got a bunch of stuff now that I want to try.
Yeah, I only do that unless I absolutely have to do that for space reasons, but I tend to do all my soldering away from the kit because I know me, I might end up melting something myself. So I would say if you can avoid soldering anything uh, inside the model kit, definitely avoid it if
Yeah,
possible.
yeah, learning as you go. It has its setbacks.
Oh yeah, well that's how you learn. I mean, if you don't make any mistakes, then you really don't learn anything. And
Yeah,
those mistakes are valuable because you know what not to do again.
yeah. See now I've been getting in Christmas time they get the little bitty LED Christmas light strands that you
Hmm.
can cut and you can shape into different things, and
Oh yeah,
you have the little bit. I'm going to be using those going forward because they're like $2,
yeah, they're
and as
not.
long as everything's glued down, it'll work. So that's what I'm going to start doing now.
Yeah, there's a lot of options for lighting out there that have just come up in the last, I would say, couple of years that weren't available to us. Back in the day when we first started doing this.
No, yeah, yeah, and even like the LEDs are so different. Like there only used to be like one type, and now there's like 200.
Oh yeah,
You
there's and they make enough for to gear towards certain applications of what you're building, which is nice. I mean, I've got a lot of varieties of LEDs. I mean, I got a whole box full of lights and resistors that I keep on hand. And when I'm searching through Amazon for LEDs or SMDs, it's the never-ending menu of what I can buy. It's like, oh my god, so many. I could go broke just ordering LEDs.
Yeah, and Radio Shack's no longer around, so it makes it even harder.
Yeah, we lost ours probably about 5 or 6 years ago. I think ours finally went out of business. Although I was able to get a really cool deal on my soldering station through them because they were going out of business.
Oh yeah, that's
Oh yeah,
cool.
yeah. I walked out with a hundred and some dollar soldering station for only about $40.
Oh, the one that has the big unit and like you can adjust all the way to like 4,000 degrees or whatever it was.
No, it's not that one. It's a separate unit from the solder iron itself, and it can go up to about 850 degrees.
Oh, okay.
But it's a really nice adjustable station, and I think they had it marked for like 50% off, and it was an open box. So the guy said, "Well, I'll just knock off $20 more," and I'm like, "Sure." I walked out, paid like $40.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a really good. I mean, I've had it for years, and it's still going strong. It's never given me a problem. At
No,
most, I've replaced the tips.
Yeah. The tips, yeah, those are. Hey, yeah, it's crazy once you get kind of into that and how like I can solder a little bit now, but it's still not like I should be.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the more you do, the better you get at it. You just kind of got to keep plugging away at it, and eventually you'll get a really good soldering joint that looks really beautiful. And you'll have, like me, you'll have many failures along the way. I've had quite a few.
So you light it up. Now, are you painting it after you light it up, or are you lighting it up after you paint?
Depends on the model kit. It depends on the order operation that I got to assemble it. Some kits I can wire completely and then paint, just mask off a few things. Like this kit I'm working on now, I actually have to paint it in stages as I'm putting it together and lighting it, just because of the complexities of the design. I'll have to actually mask off and paint in sub-assemblies before putting the whole thing together in one shot. So it's just the model that kind of dictates how you have to do it. Like on like my starships, like Enterprise, I can mostly, you know, pre-paint that and then just paint the seam lines and my joints that I put together after it's done.
Okay, well that's cool. It seems like I know with the Kazon one that I've been doing, like it was such a horrible fit. Like I just couldn't light it up after that because it was just like the gaps in that thing would just be horrendous.
Yeah, I watched that video you did on that. I mean, what you're doing so far looks really good. I like the color pattern you're going with that. That looks awesome.
Oh yeah, I mean it's crazy, but and now I'm just kind of trying to weather it up a little bit with like metallics like bronze,
Hmm.
and I'll do a gold. I don't think I'll do silver, but so
Well,
far, it is what
isn't
it
that
is.
that Kazon kit? That's one of the older kits, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I've got.
that's one of those like the Star Wars thing I posted where I got like 10 or 15 kits.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I got 6 kits or something like that for like $40 or
Oh
sixty
wow,
bucks, and each one was at least $20. So
good deal.
I saved all kinds of money, and I mean, being on the West Coast, you probably see that down there by you, where the hobby shops aren't near as it's different on the West Coast than it is on the different part of the country. At least
Yeah.
that's how I see it up here.
No, no, it is. Our we have one hobby store in the next province over, and it's a nice hobby store, but it's very expensive. But the days of the regular hobby stores that I used to go to when I was growing up. I mean, when I was growing up, I could go to like 3 or 4 different hobby stores in my town. Those days are like it's like drive-in theaters. They just don't. They're not there anymore. Everything is online, and a lot of them just can't compete with the ability to do the online shopping, and they just go out of business. So the traditional hobby store of just models, like I used to do when I go to when I was little, gone. I mean, it's very few. I know like places like back in like Idaho and those areas still have hobby stores, but definitely in California, it's not happening anymore. They're all gone.
Yeah, see, the only reason I have a hobby store anymore is because of railroad and RC. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a hobby store near me. I'd have a Michaels and a Hobby Lobby. That's it.
Yeah, that's kind of we have a Michaels. I think Joanne's down here is what we have. I have a Hobby Lobby about 6 hours away.
No, really?
Yeah, I'm down in
Wow.
Bakersfield. I don't drive 6 hours to Hobby Lobby.
No, I wouldn't either.
Yeah, no. I
That'd be like going to Seattle for me. That's
yeah,
way too far.
yeah. I've been to the Hobby Lobby down there because when I was before my mom had passed away, I would go down and visit her, and while we were down there, I would stop at Hobby Lobby and maybe pick up a few kits and a few pieces of equipment, but that was about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just, it's kind of crazy when you look at the hobby, like from East Coast to Midwest, it's different. And then from Midwest to East Coast, it's like completely different.
Oh yeah, I used
It's
to live in
crazy.
Baltimore, Maryland. I lived there for like 14 years, and they had several dedicated just plastic model hobby stores that you could go to, and I loved it. And it was like I got back to California, and there no hobby stores.
Yeah,
So
but
yeah.
and the other one here, at least up here, like the Games Workshop stuff,
Hmm.
Warhammer and D&D and stuff.
Yeah,
I literally have one hobby store, but I have six of those little shops now up here.
yeah, I believe it. The gaming, the D&D gaming and stuff like that is still very much in demand. I mean, a lot of people are doing that. So that's where the moneymaker is for these businesses. That's why they're going to do them. I mean, it's good to get paints if you're looking for paints. That's a good place to get them. But if you're looking for plastic model kits, yeah, not so much.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And so, what are you using for paint when you're painting some of these starships and stuff?
I kind of use a mixture. I use the Tamiyas mainly, but I use craft paint, like the kind you buy from Walmart. I've used that on several kits as a primary color. In fact, my last ship I built, I did a video on. I think it was the Klingon Vorcha. I don't know
Okay.
if you saw that one or not.
Hmm.
That was done 90% in craft paint. I used the Tamiyas for some detail work, but mainly craft paint. It's a little trickier to use. You have to do a little more prep with it to use it, but it's inexpensive, and the color variant or the color menu is really wide, so you can get a good amount of colors from it. I have actually started using mission models paint just recently, and I'm finding that to be uh, really nice to use.
Really, really cool, huh?
Yeah, I like I just started getting these colors there. I've used this one once. This one is the green zinc chromate, I believe, and
Oh yeah.
these are not that expensive in my neck of the woods where I go. And I like these to have an agitator in the inside the bottle already, and it's a squeeze, make
Hmm.
easier for your putting your airbrush. But and I can thin this out with like Mr. Color thinner really well, and it sprays on really beautifully. And it's easier to get mission models in my area than the Tamiyas because this is an American. Didn't get it here in the United States, where Tamiya's overseas. So I can usually find my colors more readily available in mission models, and I just started using that. So I think I'm kind of leaning towards this paint.
And Wicked's the other one you probably can find really good because they're basically located out of California, right?
Yep, Wicked, and I think Vallejo is still pretty. I use some Vallejo paints, but I'm not really fond of the Vallejo because it's kind of it's a latex base, so it's not one of my favorite paints to use. But you can find out a lot of that too. But I really like the mission models. I'm kind of getting sold on that.
I've been listening to videos on mission models, and it seems like it's really people are starting to really like it,
Yeah,
and it's pricey, but it's not like Tamiya or Wicked or some of these army painter is pretty spendy for the price, I
yeah.
think.
Actually, where I get my mission models, it's about the same price as doing the Tamiyas. The quantity may be just a little less, but not by much.
Yeah, so it's what almost $5 for that bottle.
Yeah, which is about what I pay for my Tamiyas and my big bottles. I pay about $4.99 for my
Okay.
Tamiya 22-ounce bottles, and I pay about the same price for these. And I think I don't remember seeing what ounces these are, but I think they are just about the same amount as the. They go by millimeters on this one, so it's 2 millimeters. I'm not sure what that is in ounces, uh, but roughly it's almost about the same amount as you get in a bottle of Tamiya or Tamaya.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy.
Yeah.
Sometimes how much they think paint should be worth.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some small bottles, and I'm looking at the price. Like, are you serious? No, not happening.
Well, I've been using that army painter stuff because
How's
I
that?
can get it. I can get it locally. It's when I was going from craft paint to like getting some of the better stuff, right?
Hmm.
The army painter was a lot like the craft paint, so it was an easy transition.
Oh, okay.
And it's
I've
not
never.
it's not incredibly expensive, but it's cheaper than Citadel or
Oh
War
yeah,
Games Workshop stuff. So
yeah.
that's why I went with that.
Citadel is good, but they are very pricey.
And I can't stand those plots. They work. Don't get me wrong, they work, but it's like you can't mess up with them. It's you know.
Yeah, I. It's kind of like the Aquacolor, like Revell Aquacolor brand. I don't
Yeah.
quite like how they're bottled and the way that's set up. It's not one of my. I got a couple of paints from the Aquacolor. I wanted to try it, and I wasn't. I wasn't was too impressed with it, to be honest. I was more impressed with mission models.
So how has 3D printing changed your hobby? Being the Star Trek guy or the Star Trek guy.
It's added to it a lot. It's opened up more options. Well, a good example, my Discovery Enterprise, the nacelle end caps. They I don't know if you saw the kit, but they come clear. And in my attempt to try to hollow them out for lighting effect, I ended up destroying one of them. And what was the joy of having the 3D printer is I could go on to Thingiverse and I actually found a file that someone had made a screen. Well, the ship was never a model; it was actually just a computer generated ship. So, but they made a engine cap that was identical to the TV version of it, and actually did a file on it that I could 3D print, and it was the exact same size to fit that particular model. So it actually saved me money. I would had a which I ended up buying a new kit eventually to replace some other parts, but uh, it definitely saved me on, like, if I broke a part or if I want to upgrade to more screen accurate, it's giving that option to do that. So it's improved my hobby and in some cases saved it and saved me money in the process.
Um, no, I mean that's really cool. And it's kind of yeah, Fred. I will ask that question here in a little bit. Okay. Um, so it is kind of crazy how Thingiverse and 3D printing have kind of evolved over the last. I'll even say the last year. It is like night and day different.
Yeah, it took over relatively quickly. It like came in really fast and just had a such a good uh, impact that people were just it just like it didn't. I mean, I would say took over, but it definitely became a more significant role, especially in this hobby for a lot of people. I mean, uh, I've slowly watched a lot of YouTubers over the last about year um, go into 3D printing, where about a year and a half ago, no one was doing 3D printing really. And now all of a sudden, the YouTubers I've watched for years are now getting into this hobby and doing it and having fun with it too. So yeah, it's become very very prominent very fast.
So what printers do you have?
I've got 5 printers, which, as you see in my background here, is my printing station. I have one resin printer, which is a Legu Mars 2, which is what I printed the derelict on here, and it's a really good printer. Price point's good. I mean, it's a good startup printer for someone getting into the hobby. The other ones are I've got a CR10, which is a much larger. It's a green one right dead in back of me. That thing's a large printer. That thing will print very large objects, and I got a Lego Neptune 2 and two Ender 3 Pros, and those are filament printers. So I've got basically 4 filament and one resin printer.
So which one do you like? Which one do you like better?
Of the filament printers, I like my CR10 the best. It's a beast, but it has a really good print quality, and my prints come out really well with that, and it's a workhorse.
Yeah, that's the one I have actually.
Oh, what, the
Um,
CR10?
yeah,
Yeah, the CR10s are nice. I mean, they're a little more pricier. I think I paid about $400 and some for mine, but it's definitely well worth it and has made up, you know, just in the quality has warranted the price.
yeah. When I first got mine, I printed out. Do you remember when 3 or 4 years ago, that Groot flower pot thing on Thingiverse came
Oh
out.
yeah, yeah, I remember
I
that.
probably made 2 grand on just that file alone
Really?
because I printed it out and then everybody wanted one. So I just started charging. I just charged $20, $20, and it just like it took off.
Wow.
Like
Yeah, that thing is pretty popular. I mean, my wife is a big Groot fan herself, so I can see that
so,
really taking off.
and yeah, everybody that wanted one had to have one, and you know,
It was a cool print. I've seen that print. It is really
yeah,
nice,
it
actually.
was, and it was simple to print out too. I could either do it without supports or not supports, and it
Yes, that can
and
be
it
tricky
was good
sometimes.
either way. So
Yeah, I love 3D printing. I just I don't know I love the possibilities that open up when you have a 3D printer.
so which slicer are you using?
For the filament printers, I
Yeah.
use Cura. I think it's Cura 1.9 now. But I mean, Cura is constantly coming out with updates to different to. I think it was Cura 1.7, 1.8. Now it's 1.10, which I haven't tried that one yet. But the Cura slicer is what I use, and it's a good program. It never had any problems with it.
So so the cool thing about Cura is you can set it up for your machine,
Yep,
right?
yep.
And then you just have so many options on what you want to do with it. And you kind of have to play around with it, unfortunately, to get it the quality there.
Yeah, it's like I was watching when I first started doing the printing, and I was watching a bunch of videos to try to find the quote perfect settings for Cura. Uh, like someone said on a video, there is no perfect settings for the for Cura program. It's your personal settings that you find work for you. So what may work for me may not work for the next person. It depends on the PLA also. The different brands you get play a big part in those printer settings.
So I agree and disagree with that because I buy generally the cheaper stuff.
Mm, me
And
too.
yes, you do have a variant. Like you can tell, like I have it set up out here in the garage,
Mm,
so you can tell when the temperature changes out here on the cheaper stuff.
yeah,
On the more expensive stuff, it don't matter. You cannot tell in the print, but it's that kind of stuff that makes it different. I think.
yeah. It's not a to me it's not a big a big of difference as people kind of make it out to be, because I pretty much keep the same settings across the board for all my filament printers, and they all work. So maybe a few tweaks with like temperatures, because each filament has a different temp setting, but even that I keep to a base setting, and I seem to have no problems with my prints. Temperature is a factor, though. I mean, you have to
Yeah,
watch the drastic change in temp. Um, I mean, you're dealing with an extrusion with a heated extruded plastic, so temp will be a factor.
yeah.
Um,
No, it's crazy how much that changes. Like I didn't even print in July because of all the temperature up here.
yeah, I
I
actually found out the hard way about temperature really playing a big factor because why I have my printer set up, if you over on that side on my window is an AC unit because I don't have central air in my house,
okay.
and the way the vents were at, they were actually hitting the CR10. So when I had the air conditioner going, it was actually cooling the nozzle tip on the CR10. I didn't realize that, and my printer's starting to come out like crap. And I'm like, what's going on? And I'm standing there at my printer, and I feel the AC hitting me. I'm like, okay. So I turned the AC off, and I did a print came out just fine.
Yeah, see now the problem I'm having now is the fan. I've had mine for about 4 years or so,
Hmm.
and someone told me that the fans on those on the machine wear out,
Yeah, they do over time.
and it'll start clogging the nozzle really bad. So that's what's been going on with me is I'll print something like I'll print like 3 things out, and then it just like fail because the nozzle plugged up. And it's
Yeah,
just, you know,
you're talking
nothing
about
you can do.
You're talking about the cooling fan that's actually on the extruder head
Yeah,
itself. Yeah,
yeah.
those. Yeah, I've had to replace. I don't think I've replaced that fan yet. I did have to replace a CPU fan in my Ender 3 Pro. That went out on me, and it wasn't cooling the motherboard, so I had to actually take that apart and replace that fan, and haven't had a problem since.
Yeah, it's crazy how durable that CR10 is, huh?
Yeah, this the CR10 is a workhorse. I mean, that thing. The one thing I had one gripe about it, and this was a common problem with this printer, is it comes with a glass bed. I don't know if you had the same problem with yours, but every bed that they that came with that CR10 had a tendency to be warped.
I just flipped mine over.
Yeah, I was gonna mine was warped. I was gonna flip it over. I did do it once, and the print came out pretty decent. But I'm funny about that. I wanted a flat bed, and I
Yeah.
prefer the black beds, not the see through. So I just went and bought a new one for the CR10. It didn't cost me that much, and
You bought the
so
ones that like flex out so the print pops off, right?
no, I have one of those on my Neptune 2, which I don't know. I like the glass print bed better. That's what I have on the rest of my printers, and I just seem
Mm.
to like the glass better.
No,
You do,
it's crazy how like on mine you could see the warp in the bed because the
mhm.
glass kind of like warped in a little bit, but the
Yep.
other side was completely flat. I was like,
Yeah.
all right, well, I'll just set it on like that, and it seems to work fine.
Yeah, that actually was the fix that I was seeing a lot on YouTube. They were saying to flip it over, and it's. I mean, I could put a ruler on mine, and when it was with the dip facing down, you could see this nice half moon gully right in the middle of the bed, and flipped it over, and then the ruler would like rock back and forth, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just getting a new bed. Weren't
You
that
see the
expensive.
question? You see the question on the screen?
I was tossed between the Ender or the NiCubic, but heard the resin printers are more user and learner friendly. Um,
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that.
well,
At least for me, I had all kinds of problems with the resin printer.
resin printers, it's a different type of issues that you have to learn.
Yeah.
My biggest problem with the resin printer I had was I had a lot of failures with parts not sticking to the build plate, and you do kind of have to, like, I had to take sandpaper and lightly rough up my build plate to get things to stick, and you have to apply a lubricant to the tray where the resin is, to make things not stick to that FL the filament plate. So I
Wait,
don't know.
back
I
up,
think
back
it's
up,
equal.
back up, back up, back up. What
Oh,
what do you put on the filament thing? Or the flat
I put a
thing?
lubricant. I use a. It's called. Let me see. Let me get it here. I'll show you.
Oh, this is definitely a good tip because I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah. So I use this stuff. You can use like 3-in-1 oil, or you can this. I bought this for it, Super Lube, and what I do is I put a couple of drops of this on the vat plate. I mean the FL. Forgot what it's called now. FLP.
The clear thing on the
Yeah.
bottom of the thing,
Yeah, and I'll
right?
take a paper towel and I'll just lightly just saturate in a thin coat on that plate, and that really helps the parts not to stick to, when it's pulling off that plate. It also lessens the tension on it too, so it doesn't have a tendency to wear it out as fast. But this stuff works really well. It only takes a few drops. Also, with film with resin printing, another thing that's really important is to uh, go with your the specs on your resin for like exposure time. That's really important.
So do we? How do you find that out?
It's if you get a bottle of resin, it will tell you on the bottle, very much like filament. It'll give you an exposure time, which is your initial first layer exposure, which is the most important. That's what adheres the part to the build plate. Um, it will give you a time for that exposure, and then you just go into the like my slicing program's Cheeto box, and you go into settings and you just change the exposure time on the initial layer to match up with what it says on the bottle for the resin, and that actually stopped my problem. I stopped having failed prints, and parts were sticking to my build plate better. So there's a lot of different fixes you can do to fix those problems, but it's a new set of learning curves with resin versus FDM printers.
So wait a minute, wait a minute. Let's back up here a second. So you're saying that all this stuff matters. You should see the so
There's
all
Cheeto
this
box.
stuff is on that bottle. right?
Exposure time. Let me get my resin bottle. Show you. Hold on. Sorry, wasn't prepared.
No, it's cool. You know, coming up with stuff on the fly, dude.
So, like on my bottle right here, it's a UV resin. It says recommended settings for 3D printing. Bottom exposure, mine is 60 seconds. Normal exposure, 8 seconds, and that should be on that menu you have down there.
Wait, normal exposure time? You talking about that, right?
Yeah, there's two exposure times. You have your initial exposure, which is what starts your base. It's what
Okay.
starts the like supports and everything like that. And then after that, it has a normal exposure time for the rest of the print as it's going through the motions.
Then
Because
what's the retraction speed?
I it does not give you a retraction speed on this. I don't really. I'm not with Cheeto Box. I'm still learning it, so I'm not 100% sure on a lot of the settings. But I don't think I've ever messed with my retraction speeds. I think my retraction that was set with the program works just fine. I've never had to actually mess with that.
Now the lift distance is the distance it comes off the plastic thing, right? Is that
Yes, I believe so.
and then the speed is how fast it does that. Does that really matter?
I've never changed those settings on mine. I left those factory settings, and so far I've been having good runs with my prints at this point. Everything I've ever researched always pointed to the exposure time being very important, especially for adhesion issues.
Oh, yeah.
Uncle Jesse is a really great resource also for resin printing. He does resin printing, and he has a channel that explains a lot on how to do resin and fixes for that.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's got him and 3D printing nerd
Yeah,
are the two guys I listen to the most.
yeah, they're good. I've used a lot of Uncle Jesse's tips and tricks for my resin printer, and I mean, I'm still learning my resin printer. I'm not a pro at this by a long shot, and I'm still learning it. I'm learning the program still, learning how to angle things for best, like less supports. Um, it's one of those things where you just don't start out of the gate knowing how to resin print. It's not that easy. You have to learn it.
See, one of the problems I was having for like at least a week, like, and I only got 3 prints out of a full 1K bottle, right?
Well, yeah,
I just kept trying to work at it, and eventually just had to ask a couple people. But it would print the supports, but nothing of the figure.
oh wow.
I like I didn't know. I dummy. That's all I can say. I mean I really really don't know what the heck happened.
That might have been in the. I mean, was it just the one print that did that, or was it multiple prints?
No, it was multiple.
Huh.
Like
I don't know. I've never had that problem per se, so I don't know what would cause that one. I've had my main problem was prints that were just like popping off the build plate or would stick completely to the vat and not even come out of the darn darn resin tray.
oh, see, I had that too. Yeah, I had those problems too.
Yeah, I hated those problems. Those were. I learned a little trick from that is how to peel those off of that plate without damaging the clear plastic. Was don't scrape it off. Just put your finger underneath the part and kind of press up,
Oh
and
yeah,
it
yeah,
pop
yeah.
and
Pop
it
it.
pops
Yeah,
it loose. Yeah,
yeah. I got that from 3D printing nerd. I think.
yeah,
I think
I
is where
think
I
so
learned
too.
that one from.
I think that's where I found mine too. Actually, I was like, how do I get this thing off this plate without damaging it? I don't want to scrape it and scratch it.
No, yeah. I mean, and it's crazy how how brittle that thing seems to be, but it's durable.
Yeah, very polite.
Yeah,
It has a lot of give to it.
you know. So you've printed out a file. Then what happens? Because we got to do. Do you do you clean it first, or do you throw it in the um?
UV.
Yeah, UV light.
I always clean them first. Like with my print I did last night, what I do is once it, I kind of let it sit on the in the printer for a few minutes to let the resin kind of like drip kind of like drip dry a little bit and get the
Yeah.
excess off, and then I pull it out onto a. I built. You can see over there. I actually built a cleaning station and station for my printers. I just pull it off that, and I'll pop it off with a scraper onto my cookie sheet, and I jump it into my cleaner, the yellow device next to it. That's my two-in-one. It's a UV cure station as well as cleaning station, and I just basically I fill the vat or the container with IP, put the part in the basket, and just set it in the IP, and I run it for about maybe 25 minutes on a clean cycle, and it spins one way for about half that time, and then it will stop and reverse. And then once that's done, I pull it out. I put it onto a paper towel, the part, and I just let it completely dry, all the alcohol off of it. And then I'll put it inside the curing station for another 25 minutes. And then I'll cut my supports off after it's all been cured. You can cut the supports off before curing. It's kind of a preference thing. I know Uncle Jesse cuts before curing, but to me, it's easier to put the part in the station when it still has the supports on it. So I can just set it inside on the platform and let it rotate.
Okay. Yeah, it seems to be a preference thing.
Yeah.
At least that's kind of how I've seen it so far.
I mean, I prefer doing it that way because unfortunately, before you cure this stuff, um, even with a 60-minute initial layer or exposure time, it's still very soft, and you can put a fingerprint in the stuff before you cure it. So I don't like to mess with those supports until I can handle it without worrying about destroying detail.
Yeah, for sure, man. So you get it all washed up. Now, how long do you actually cure it for?
Depends on the size of the part that you're doing. Like this ship here, I would say I put this in for about 25 minutes in a cure, and it will rotate with a. It's got a bar that stands straight up with UV lights, and it will just sit there and just turn very slowly in circles. And about 25 minutes is a good cure time for a larger piece. Small pieces you can do less. Kind of depends how big what you're working with.
So have you been hollowing out parts yet?
No, I have not tried that yet. Actually, that's I've actually had kind of like you. I've had very few successful prints from my resin printer because it took me about a bottle or two to figure out to get this thing to work right. I'm just now starting to get good prints out of it, but I was thinking about trying hollowing out for lighting purposes one of these days. Uh, that's not yet.
See, and it's kind of funny, like because it seems like everybody has their own preference on that. Because
Yeah,
there seems to be like smaller stuff you should be able to print it or cure it out in smaller, but the
yeah,
larger stuff, I've heard anything from 30 minutes to like an hour and a half. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and it just depends on the person.
yeah. It depends how much. I mean, how big the part is. I mean, if you got a really large part that's going to fit it, it's actually still going to fit into your curing station. It's going to take a lot more exposure time to get that resin cured. And if it's a really thick part, it's going to take some time. Um, Hollowing does actually save on your resin. It uses less resin when you hollow something out versus
Yeah.
making a solid. Um, doesn't change the time at all. It still takes the same amount of time to print, hollow or not, um, but does save on your resin. That's not cheap.
Yeah, yeah. And I haven't heard like there's all kinds of different types of resin, but I haven't heard any good things on the water curing one.
I've tried it. I tried it once, and I have heard some good things about it from other people, but myself personally, I did not have good results from the water washable. Now, I'm not saying it's not a bad product. Just for me, I wasn't really um, happy with it, how it was coming out. It is easier to clean. You don't have to buy IP for it, but I don't know. I've heard other people say good things about it, so kind of on the fence with that one.
Yeah, it seemed like it was a quick. They threw something together real quick because IP was on a shortage last
Yeah,
year.
yeah. Well, I think it still is actually. But yeah,
Well,
I
we've been able to get it probably. When did I start printing? It was I was probably June or July. I was able to start getting it again.
okay.
But before that, like you saw like the 70% stuff at the dollar store.
Oh
And
yeah,
even that was rare to find.
yeah. Well, there was a time when you couldn't even find IP on the shelf at all, no matter where
Yeah.
you went. Like I went to Walmart and normally you'd see a bunch of IP on the shelf. It was gone. There was nothing there. It was people were making their own sanitizer, hand sanitizer with that stuff. So it was just, I mean, if you had stock in the IP industry, well, shoot, you made plenty of money.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So with you having a resin 3D printer, are you going to try to start doing some figures and stuff with that or
Yeah. I mean, my first attempt at a figure was the alien figure that I printed and gave to Michelle. Um, and I learned a lot how to print that one too. But yeah, I wouldn't mind getting into printing some maybe some more alien figures, like some maybe face huggers or eggs or something in that line. Because my printers, they're it's a twofold process. I have them to print practical things like stuff for my woodworking projects in my garage, as well as tools.
okay.
But also I like to use them to print fun stuff, like this for example. You know, it's not
Yeah.
practical, but it's fun.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so it's kind of like my printers have that twofold job. It's like they're a workhorse for things I need, but they're also there to have fun with when I want to print something just out of my head or what I find on Thingiverse. But yeah, figures I would like to try to get more of printing those because I do like some of the alien figures that I like to have for my alien collection.
No, yeah, I mean it's crazy what you can do with some of the just some of the stuff like your space stuff, and then like you get into the sci-fi stuff, and then you get into automotive stuff, like what Miguel's doing with his 3D printing software is just
Oh yeah,
crazy, and Dominic's on a completely different level.
yeah.
Like, yeah, it's absolutely crazy what these guys are doing now,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
and
If you're, they're great for automotive. I mean, you, they open a very wide uh, menu to do in the line of automotive models. I mean, engines, trannies. Uh, well, trying to think. We got another YouTuber that's with us on our hangouts. Spunky.
yeah.
If you've seen his videos, I mean, a lot of his parts for his car builds are all 3D printed parts, and he uses an FDM printer. Well, he uses both. He has FDM and resin, but he uses that to print a lot of parts for his vehicles, and they come out beautiful.
But here's the other thing, and he's going to be on, so we're going to talk about this. But he's building a 1/6 or 1/8 car,
Hmm.
so it's bigger, so the details better. You don't have the
Yeah,
and it helps with that. But on a
yeah.
like 1/24th car, like Mopar's going to try to not build, um, um, it's different for you lose a lot of the detail in some of the smaller stuff if it's not resin. The resin stuff seems to be fairly there.
Resin is there. There are more tolerances for small stuff on resin, but it still has
Yeah,
its limits.
yeah.
I've hit those limits on some parts where I just couldn't print them. They were just too small. It just would not work. But it is. But you're right. And size is a big factor in that if you're going to be doing work like that. But yeah, I agree with you on that one. Definitely.
So, hey, it's what we do here, Frizzo.
Getting one now. Sorry
now,
about that, Frizzo.
see, this is like he was talking about the cure and the wash station in the one.
Hmm.
Now Elegoo has the two separate ones, and if you go on Uncle Jesse's channel, he just did the review on it like within the last month of
Okay.
the and the one's the cure station that has its own little machine. and then you have the wash station as its own little machine, and it's the same price.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's like for me, it's a how much room I have kind of situation because as you can see behind me, this is my studio, and I share with my wife. Like my wife has the entire corner of this room for her craft stuff, so I'm limited on my spacing.
Yeah.
So having an all-in-one helps me a lot. But
No, yeah, 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 yeah.
I mean, it's that's a preference thing. If you want to have two different stations and you have the room for it, then and you're paying the same price, and yeah, it works too. I go by how much room I have, and I don't have a lot of room in my house. I would if my wife didn't have that entire corner, but I kind of gave it to her. That's be nice.
No, I can swap an engine in a model car, no problem, Mopar. I don't know what your problem is. I don't know. I'm only kidding. Jeez. I'm only kidding.
We love you, Mopar.
Oh,
Double Dog, Miguel. You go to
oh, that's
Denver's
cool. I didn't
website.
realize he was doing that. Are you, Miguel? Are you gonna start putting some of those engine files and stuff on there? Actually, better yet, are you gonna start putting that roll cage on there? Let's just.
Ooh,
That's a better question.
that roll cage came out nice.
That's the question I want. Because if I could print that friggin' thing out and not have to build it, that would be great.
That definitely is a resin print thing. I think I haven't tried it yet on my resin printer, but I've been meaning to give it a shot.
Oh, the roll cage that he
Yeah,
he designed out of that. Yeah,
yeah,
that.
that's definitely a resin thing there. I did
Yeah.
try printing it on my FDM printer. Didn't work.
Oh well, you'll put anything on there that you might regret that.
Well,
Oh well, Mopar, come on, man, come on, man. I know how to turn a bolt. I it might take me 2 days, but I'd still get it done. Come on. Oh,
nice.
Fred, when you go on to the interview with Devil Dog here, he shows you the whole piece of paper that you could scratch build one on. That's why I was saying he needs to like 3D print one out. It's really cool. Yeah, all that stuff is super cool.
Well, I he designed Miguel designed the jig for making those roll cages, and I printed it. And he said it. I mean, I don't think he's tried it yet, but I know they all fit together pretty well. But there's actually a jig that he put on Thingiverse to help build those roll cages.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that. That's cool.
Yeah, he designed it, sent me the file, and I prototyped the print on it, put it all together, and it worked really well. And I sent it back to him. So I'm actually gonna make one for John too, as John was asking about it. So I told him I'd make one for him. But yeah, it's designed to hold. It's got the stilts in it to actually hold the styrene plastic and everything to build the roll cage.
Turning the wrench is easy if you
Yeah,
break the
yeah.
bolt.
That's when the fun starts. When you break off the bolt.
Hey, the answer is simple. Don't break the bolt.
That's always the best way. That's the best option, Josh. Don't break the bolt.
No, I kid with Mopar. Yeah, I can work on cars. Don't get me wrong, but I don't have near the tools that I should, and it never goes right at the end if I don't have the right tool. Never.
I can see that.
Tools
Yeah.
are important in that particular hobby.
Oh yeah. Tools make it or break it.
Wait. Fred's got another question here. Prime first, then paint. So the the question there is you need to prime with filler primer Because I mean, paint will stick to the resin, but it will fall off just like anything else, right? At least that's been my preference.
Yeah, primer is a must with the with resin prints, and the filler primer works really well. I use it on my all of my printed stuff, and it works really well.
That will never happen, Mopar. Okay. Okay. Two, when until I was probably 22 or so, I was always working on cars. Like, but I also had my dad's tool set. We changed motors. Like I've replaced several motors in the car. I can do it. I'm not very good at it.
Frizzo special
Oh.
primer or Tamiya will work. Is that in reference to a resin print, Frizzo?
So so
I think.
so filler primer, at least on the, I don't know if you need it for the resin stuff. There's some of the resin files, they're good enough you don't need the filler primer because you're filling in all the, what do they call them, sizeration lines or
Oh,
whatever you
the
call them.
styration lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the filler primer goes in and flattens all that out. On the
Yep.
resin side, you don't need as much of it.
No, that's the
Peel,
nice thing about the resin is it pretty much comes out pretty smooth right out of the gate.
PLA, you need like 3 cans of it to do like the Predator that I've done or that Warlord Titan.
Hmm.
Yeah, you need quite a bit of it because you're filling in all that,
Yeah.
unless you print it out where it's really tight together.
Yeah. If you print it on super quality, it just takes twice as long to print. That's the downfall of the quality. The longer, the higher quality you get, the longer it takes to print it out. But yeah, I've used that filler primer on. Well, let me show you. I'll show. I use filler primer on the base. This is a 3D printed base, and I use the filler primer on that.
Oh yeah. There you go.
And that came out really good. I mean, it took me about 2 coats and then sanding it off, but it really filled a lot of those lines out and really smoothed it really well. And that was a standard quality print. I didn't even do any special quality on it.
Yeah, I mean, and the cool thing is if you go to like I'm assuming every AutoZones across the U.S., but they have a little can. It's probably about like that. It's like 20. It's $26 or so. I still have like half of it. Like I've barely even used it, but I airbrush it on with my Posh H,
Okay.
and it works great. Like I don't have to really deal with it as much. I mean, you do got to stir the can up. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the negative with anything, but
sure.
yeah.
I get mine from Walmart. I get the filler primer from Walmart. Works really well.
Or the for the cans, right? The
Yeah.
spray can.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're all cans. Yeah.
yeah. But those are like $5-6 a piece.
Yeah, they're. I forgot how much mine was. It wasn't too terribly expensive, but I don't really. I mean, I don't use it for anything except for resin or for FEM printing. So they tend to go last quite a long time. I'm gonna take a
Gotta take the.
351 water pump on.
Oh yeah, dude. You don't even, dude. We'll have to talk one day. I'll tell you exactly how that nightmare ended.
It doesn't sound good.
No, it took a, yeah. Like me and my dad both got mad at that engine on that particular day, and that never seen the light of day.
Oof.
Yeah.
I've had a few parts do that to me.
No, I. It is. Yeah, it is crazy. Um. So I didn't really have any other questions for you. Did you have some for me?
Uh, I I don't know actually. I have really. Well, I'm trying to think of questions now. Uh, well, quick question. what kind of made you decide to go into this area of like doing interviews with all the guys and everything like that?
So okay. So 2 years ago, I started the podcast with Mark and Gordon, Sprucast,
Hmm.
and last year they decided to end it. It was around December or so. We'd ended in towards the end of the year. But on Black Friday last year, I paid for the subscription to this, and it was $10 a month for the whole year. Like in November, I'm gonna have to make a decision on whether I'm gonna go back to just doing this on YouTube and just have a standard, or I got to figure it out. But
Right.
so I paid for this, and I wasn't using it. Wasn't using it. I do a live stream here and there, but I wasn't using any of it. And then like January, February started rolling around, and I was trying to just figure out what I was going to do with it. Couldn't figure it out. Videos were coming out slowly, and I was wanting to grow the channel.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of how this all, it's just been a process. Everybody seems to love these. And so I keep doing them. It's been fun. I get to meet, like you, Mopar, Miguel, Fred. You know, I want to get like Sarah Jane on here, but there's the time difference, so we have to
Yeah.
like work it out. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've gotten since February. I've only taken off like holiday weekends, and I've missed like 1 week here and there,
Okay.
and it's been great. Like my channel's growing. So I mean, that's kind of more of the story to it. I was
Okay.
trying to get the channel to grow,
Gotcha.
and it's been
Yeah.
growing. I was somewhere down around the 200 mark,
Hmm.
and now I could be over 300 now, but I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I could see it growing your channel like that too. That's actually, um, yeah, I can see it. Just it really gets you. It gets you out there too, in the community, more too. There are people to see you and just and as well as like getting all of us, exposure to the community, more parts of the community as well. For our channels, helps rise ours, gets ours higher up too. Like Batman says, a man must have many skills under his belt. I agree with that, Mopar.
That's probably the smartest thing he said in a while.
I agree with that 100%. They say, what's the other saying? A jack of all trades, but a master of none. I maybe so, but it's to be a jack of all trades is still a benefit.
So, like, I agree with that, but in the production field where you got to physically do stuff,
Mhm.
you're better off knowing how to do a lot of the jobs so
Yep,
they can just stick you in wherever they need you. You
makes
know,
you
and
more versatile.
you'll like if you can do that. I've literally made layoff cuts because I knew how to do more than 4 jobs or 2 jobs.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh
Like
yeah.
there's there's
You become more
advantages.
valuable when you can do multiple things. Your value really goes up. Not to mention job security.
Well, you know,
It's like where I work at. I can do almost all the jobs. I've been at my job for over 5 years, and I can do pretty much everything and anything that anyone can do there. And it's like not a problem. They say, "Can you do?" Yeah, no problem. I got it. You know, Sarah, but Rocky. Mopar.
wow. I
Oh,
just gave
Mopar.
you a compliment and then you roll back with that. What the hell, dude?
Mopar. Shame on you. That looks.
Yeah?
Yep.
Wow. Wow. Okay, dude. So Yeah, I mean that was basically the whole reason for doing these interviews. I've just basically been just trying to grow the channel a little bit.
Gotcha.
I'd love to get, everybody to watch these, but it's the internet, right?
Yeah. Eventually, it'll be watched.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
and there's
my wife actually got me into doing YouTube videos. It was actually her idea for me to start doing this.
well, and like not this last weekend, but weekend before, um, they had a modeling thing here locally,
Mm.
and because I've been using some of the tips that I've learned off a lot of these, that green truck that's on my channel, I
Mm.
took that to the show, and my wife said it was by far the best looking car there, but because of
Nice.
all their politics stuff that they do in that group, one of the top guys won all the awards.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes it's not worth it.
but I just from where I started to that it's just like it's crazy how much I've kind of learned just since February, how
Yep.
much I've gotten better, doing this. So
I've done the same thing with lighting models since I got back into this hobby again. I've advanced so much more than what I used to do that I can do so much more now, and I love it. I mean, my first lighted model was using Christmas lights.
wait, what was that?
So true, John. And when they do take out the trash.
Okay, I must have missed. Oh, ha, Mopar, I got it.
Oh, some of it. Yeah.
Yeah, Mopar, I got it. Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. So what's going to be a future build for you after this Galactica thing?
um, I'm not sure. I'm still kind of knocking that idea around. I mean, I got a few. I was thinking maybe I do have the Pegasus from the same show model that is a lot larger kit, and I was thinking maybe doing that one, but I don't know. I'm torn between the Star Trek model and the Galactica model, so I don't know. I never really. I don't usually plan my builds in advance. I just kind of go out to my garage and look at my shelf and my stash and kind of just pick out one that I want to build at that point in time. I don't actually try to set one up ahead of time. Kind of go by
Well,
what my mood is.
I just got that whole Star Wars set,
Hmm.
but I'm kind of curious to see what round two is going to be putting out for the Star Wars stuff.
I know round two's been busy. They got some new stuff coming out here real soon, from what I've been hearing.
And even on the Star Trek side that they've been doing,
Yeah,
like they're supposed the rumor is there that Defiant that came out that was fairly large that they just repopped.
yeah.
So the Deep Space Nine space station is supposed to be big enough for that to sit next to,
Oh my
like
god,
to dock into.
that.
I I
Oh
don't
my
know if that
god.
rumor is true, but if it is, I would buy that in a heartbeat.
Now they're talking like studio scale at that point, at least. I know they're coming out with. I know they're doing a Grissom, a 1350 Grissom is coming out too.
Yeah, no, and it's great that they're starting to redo some of that stuff too.
Well, especially popular ships like I love the Grissom, and I would like it in a bigger ship than what you can get it in now. So that appeals to what we like. So yeah, make
Yeah.
these ships bigger. Give one 350 scales, or even you know even larger than the 1000s.
No, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't get me wrong. I don't mind 1000, but
Wait. What Mopar? What are you rebuild?
uh, quadrojet.
Quadrajet? What is a quadrajet? Let's start there. Okay. Oh, Cliff's in. Nice. What's going on,
Hello,
Cliff?
Cliff.
Yeah, I kind of got distracted here. Okay. Um, quad. Oh, carburetor.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
carburetor's not hard if you know what you're doing. Come on, dude.
And take your
Come
time.
on, dude. Come on, dude. Not hard if you know what you're doing.
Just don't rush it.
Yeah, I had to work on cars before they made fuel injection. I
My dad was like that too. He was an old style mechanic.
yeah. All right, so we're about an hour and 20 minutes. Oh, you know what? Did you have you seen the Titan thing that I've done? The big body thing that robot that I was doing
I don't think I've seen that yet. I need to actually look at that.
that I printed out. Here, I'll show
I'm
you. This is the
I don't
upper body.
remember.
Yeah,
Oh my lord!
yeah. See, this is just the upper body.
And that was on your CR10?
Yeah, that was on my CR10.
Oh my! How many parts is that?
Uh,
Oh my! I mean, that's a lot of parts.
60 parts total, I believe.
Oh
It took
lord!
me it's like one part at a time. It took me like over a year.
Oh my lord! But the detail looks awesome though.
Yeah.
Oh Josh, I
And
like that.
and there's I mean I've been painting it,
Oh
so I mean it's painted, but
yeah,
I'm just
and those
waiting
guns.
for Fallout Hobbies to get
Yeah, no, that looks
one of them.
absolutely awesome.
Yeah. Like
Wow.
this will be like a 2 year project when it's all said and done.
Oh, no doubt. But it'd be so worth it though. Oh my lord, that Josh, that looks really good. That really does. I love the paint on it. It looks awesome. I mean, I, from a distance, I mean, I'm sure you have cyration lines on it, like all 3D prints do. But if they're there, they're very minute, or you
I
really
mean
sealed them well.
you can see them. I didn't totally get rid of them all.
Yeah, you're on something like that. It's gonna be hard to.
But like
But
the
that's
head goes in that hole, so I'm not really too worried about it. But
yeah,
like,
no,
and up here, all the stuff. But I tried to hide away like stuff where you're actually gonna see it. I
oh yeah,
actually hit it right, even on this arm joint back here where my thumb is.
yeah.
You can see the lines, but it kind of gives it a texture that it's unique.
I was gonna say it actually adds to the metallic
Yeah,
look.
yeah. So
Actually,
it's got its advantages sometimes,
oh yeah, no, I agree.
but
That looks really
yeah,
good.
yeah, that's what I've been doing with 3D printing is doing figures and robots and like I
Wow.
printed out the T100 skeleton
Oh yes.
and painted that.
I've been wanting to try to print one of those. I've got the file.
Dude, here. And I this is wicked color, but
Ooh,
like
ooh, very nice.
yeah,
I
like
like that color.
and this was on the CR10.
And it was all one print.
Yeah, all one print.
Nice.
Like it took me ever to
Yeah,
sand this thing down.
I can
Like,
imagine.
like
That's a
you can see all the
wow. Looks good though.
yeah, you know.
I like that. I think I have that file. I haven't printed it yet.
The only thing I will say is like if I was gonna redo it on the Cura thing,
Mm,
they have the zigzag file filament thing where it's
yes.
pattern,
Yep.
and then at the bottom, one of the things that'll come up is a breakaway um, support.
Yeah.
It'll say break, and you can set it up so it's however many layers thick. Like Like you can have it
Oh.
5 millimeters thick or 11 millimeters thick through the
Okay. So.
report. And I'd shrink that down because I broke all the hydraulic lines in the face.
Oh, okay. So
So
it makes it easier to bust off those supports without busting off parts in the process.
yeah.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind actually because I've had that problem before. I've broken parts off, taking the supports off a lot.
Oh yeah, dude. It's crazy. Like it's night and day different. Night and day different. But
Well, okay.
this was like print 10 or so
Wow.
for me, and it's
Did you
still
did you use a low infill rate on that?
yeah. I usually do 10 to 20%.
That's what I do. 10, 15 tops. Well, it depends on the part too. If you're doing a part that has it's kind of a lot of needs structural integrity, it's kind of a load on it, then I'll
Yeah.
print a really high infill, if not somebody's even solid.
Yeah, like the robot there. There's some parts that I had to infill like 80% because it
Yeah,
just wasn't going to work.
yeah. No, that infill makes a big difference.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. Even with the resin stuff, when you figure out how to do the hollowing out stuff, like there's a
Mhm.
couple guys that I'm gonna have to really go in and watch to see how they do it, or I might even have to like go buy someone else's stuff to see how they're actually hollowing it out with the
Well,
holes.
the slicer program will Box does it automatically for you.
Huh?
It all you do is on Box, the slicer program. There's a thing where you can hit hollow out object, and it will automatically hollow it out for you.
But the negative on that is you have to go in and put the breathing holes in so the resin will.
Yeah.
And some people have got it figured out to where you can put the holes back in. And I just haven't played around with it enough.
Yeah, when you do that hole setting, as I've done it, I've tried it. Just I haven't actually printed with it, but I just tried to experiment with it. When you place holes, it actually gives you a plug from that hole on the side of the print that will print with the print with
Yeah,
your part that you can just plug it back into again. But yeah,
yeah.
I've never actually done it.
I like I said, it's. I only got the one container that came with the printer, right?
Yeah.
So and
Well,
switching jobs so many times this year, I just have not been able to get more of it.
don't feel bad. This is my third bottle of resin, and I don't have that many prints to show off because I've had so many failures.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
feel bad.
not all of us are like Miguel, who's just been pumping stuff out perfectly every time.
Yeah, this is I mean, this is probably one of my best prints so far. This ship right here, I'm really happy with it. Can't wait to actually paint it.
No, it looks really, really cool.
Yeah, it comes with a stand you can print too, so it has its own mount for it and everything. So
All right, so we're about an hour and a half. I try not to go over an hour and a half, but
okay,
so I'm gonna kick you off the screen for a minute, and I will talk to you when we go offline. Okay?
okay, sounds good.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Josh. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man. And I will talk to you in a couple minutes.
All right, buddy. Have a good one.
All right, everybody. So that was SDM Productions. Um, he's pretty cool guy. He's got ships and lighting and 3D printing. We got a lot of talking on that, so it was really cool. And I want to try a couple things he suggested. So, but next week, actually, Michelle 362 or 365 or something like that. I got to know what that is part of, but she's going to be on next week. She's, I think, just finished a Mack truck, and she just did a figure of his. So it'll be cool. Lots of good info coming up. I will see you guys next week. Bye.